All right, let's dive right in and break down exactly what you need to know about the theories of well-being for your exam. We're going to focus on the core concepts that are really going to help you earn the highest marks.
So this is really the big question, right? It's the fundamental puzzle that all of these theories are trying to solve. As we go through each one, just keep this in the back of your mind. How does this theory try to explain what a well-lived life actually is?
Okay, first things first, you absolutely have to nail this core distinction. Theories of well-being are all about what is intrinsically good, something that's valuable just for its own sake. A great example is having more lifestyle options. Now, money, that's instrumentally good. It's just a tool, it helps you get to those options. We're focused on the end goal, that intrinsic good. So, we're going to kick things off with two subjective theories, and the key word here is subjective. It means your personal point of view, your own internal experience, is what determines whether your life is going well. It's all about you.
And the first one up is hedonism. This one's pretty straightforward, honestly. It just says your well-being goes up when you have more pleasure and less pain. Simple as that. It's all about your internal feelings, your mental state.
Yeah, if you need to boil hedonism down for your exam, just remember this one simple idea. Your life goes well if it feels good from the inside. It's really just about making sure that, from your perspective, the pleasure outweighs the pain.
Okay, so our second subjective theory is called preference satisfaction. And this one kind of flips the script. It's not so much about how you feel, it's about what you want. Your well-being gets a boost if you actually get what you prefer in the world.
So, with preference satisfaction, the crucial point is that achieving your desires is what really counts. Let's say you want to become a doctor. If you actually achieve that goal, boom, your well-being is increased, even if the day-to-day grind of getting there involved a lot of stress and pain.
Okay, you're going to want to pay super close attention to this slide because a classic exam question is all about contrasting these two views. So remember, hedonism is about your internal mental states, that feeling of pleasure. Preference satisfaction is about the external state of the world actually matching what you want. Don't forget that distinction.
All right, let's switch gears completely and talk about a totally different way of looking at this: objective theories. These theories basically say, hey, your personal feelings don't tell the whole story.
So what these theories say, like the capability approach from Sen or the objective list from Nussbaum, is that there's basically a universal checklist for what makes a life good. And the items on this list are good for everyone, whether you personally want them or not, or whether they make you feel pleasure.
And here are some great examples of what might actually be on that list. We're talking about things like bodily health, being able to think for yourself, having loving relationships, and even being able to play. According to this view, these things are good for you, period, even if you don't happen to value them right now.
All right, now we get to what is probably the most important part for your exam prep: knowing the big objections to each theory. This is where you can really shine, using thought experiments to poke holes in these ideas.
So the biggest knock against any of these objective theories, it's this idea of paternalism. It's the sense that some outside authority, like the theories list, knows what's better for you than you do. It can feel like it's stomping all over your personal freedom.
This smoker example lays out the conflict perfectly. Think about it. A person prefers to smoke and live to be 60. According to preference satisfaction, letting them smoke is what's best for their well-being. But an objective list theory would say, nope, health is an intrinsic good, so banning smoking actually improves their well-being, even if it's against their will. That's the paternalism problem in a nutshell.
Okay, let's put hedonism to the test. We're going to use a thought experiment. Meet Nelson. He's been in a pretty awful prison for a very long time, so long that he's adapted. He now genuinely gets pleasure out of his daily routine there. This is what we call the mental adaptation problem.
So what do you think? If the theory only cares about the internal feeling of pleasure versus pain, what does it have to say about Nelson's life?
And yep, that's where we hit a major problem. Hedonism is forced to say that Nelson's life is going well just because he feels pleasure. But our intuition, our gut feeling screams that his life is actually terrible. That clash makes for a really powerful counterexample and suggests that hedonism is missing something important.
Preference satisfaction theory runs into a really similar issue, but we call it adaptive preferences. Let's stick with our guy Nelson. Imagine he's adapted so completely that he now genuinely prefers to stay in prison. He doesn't want to be freed.
And there it is again, that huge clash between what the theory says and what our gut tells us. Preference satisfaction has to conclude that leaving him in prison is what's best for him, because that's what he wants. But intuitively, we all know he'd be better off free. This is another killer counterexample you can bring up in an exam.
So naturally, philosophers tried to patch this up, and their fix is called the revised preference satisfaction theory. It basically says an outcome is better for you only if you would prefer it if you were fully informed and thinking clearly. It's meant to get around these problems of, well, weird preferences.
But this revised theory isn't a magic fix. It still has trouble with things like compulsions or noble self-sacrifice. Plus, once you start laundering preferences, deciding which ones are valid and which aren't, you start to sound an awful lot like those objective theories, which brings you right back to the paternalism problem.
Okay, let's wrap this up and really lock in the key takeaways you need to walk away with for your exam. And hey, just a reminder, if you really want to make sure you've got this stuff down cold and are ready for any question they throw at you, the full summary and a bunch of practice tests are waiting for you at gradeguru.nl.
All right, here's your final checklist. First, know the big difference between subjective theories, like hedonism and preference satisfaction, and the objective ones. Second, be able to spit out a core definition for all of them. Third, be ready to explain at least one key objection for each theory, like paternalism or the adaptation problem. And finally, really get how these thought experiments are used to test the theory's weaknesses. If you can nail these points, you're going to be in fantastic shape for your exam.